The identified Scrum team means the actual team that will develop the product. This team is sometimes called the development team. They are selected after identifying the right people who have the skills needed for the project. They work based on the business requirements that the product owner shares. They also estimate the size and effort of work using user stories. Most importantly, they are responsible for delivering the actual product, the outputs or deliverables. Scrum teams are cross-functional, meaning they have developers, testers, designers, everything required to complete the work. Also, they are self-organizing. They manage their tasks independently without a project manager telling them what to do every day. In this part, we talk about the final output of the formed Scrum team process, the identified Scrum team. Once the team is formed, they themselves decide how much work they can commit to during a sprint. No one else decides that for them. They analyze the scope, their capacity, and commit accordingly. The Scrum team usually consists of 6 to 10 cross-functional members. This means they have all the skills required to deliver the product increment. This includes development, testing, quality assurance, and any other required tasks. The goal is to ensure that this team can work independently and deliver potentially shippable deliverables, meaning something that could be released to the customer if needed. Now let's understand what we mean by an identified Scrum team, which is the final output of the formed Scrum team activity. The Scrum team, also called the development team, is the group responsible for actually building the product. Their job is to understand the business requirements given by the product owner, estimate the user stories, and finally deliver the project outputs or deliverables. These teams are cross-functional, which means they have all the necessary skills within the team. Whether it's development, testing, design, or quality assurance, to get the job done. Also, Scrum teams are self-organizing. This means they don't wait for someone to assign tasks. They themselves decide how much work they can commit to in a sprint and how they will get it done. This promotes ownership, responsibility, and team-driven execution. Let's now look at the details of the identified Scrum team, the most important outcome of the team formation process. A Scrum team typically consists of 6 to 10 cross-functional members. That means the team has all the required skills like development, testing, and quality assurance needed to produce potentially shippable deliverables by the end of every sprint. These are the people who actually do the work. They build, test, and ensure the quality of the product. The responsibility of identifying or forming the Scrum team lies with the product owner, who often works closely with the Scrum Master to select the right mix of skills and attitude for the project. In this step, we focus on developing epics, which are high-level user requirements or large user stories that define the product functionality from a user's perspective. The inputs here include key documents like the project vision statement, the Scrum core team, the product backlog, stakeholder insights, change requests, and risk information. These help the team understand what kind of features the product should have at a high level. To create epics, we use tools such as user group meetings, user story workshops, focus groups, and customer interviews. These interactions help gather direct inputs from real users and stakeholders. The main outputs from this step are epics, broad feature descriptions, personas, fictional user types, a list of approved changes, and identified risks that could impact project success. In this phase, we focus on developing epics, which are large and high-level user stories. An epic is generally too big to be completed within a single sprint, so it needs to be further broken down later into smaller, manageable stories. The process begins with the Scrum core team writing epics based on two key sources: the project vision and Inputs from stakeholders like users, sponsors, and business owners. The product owner plays a key role here. They are mainly responsible for creating and owning these epics, or initial user stories. In some cases, the Scrum team may also help develop these epics in collaboration with the product owner, especially when technical understanding or implementation clarity is required. The key inputs for developing epics are: 1. Scrum Core Team. This team includes the product owner, Scrum Master, and key team members who are responsible for planning and guiding the early phases of the project. They play a crucial role in drafting epics by combining business goals with technical understanding. 2. Project Vision Statement. This provides the long-term goal or purpose of the project. It helps ensure that the epics created are aligned with the broader business objectives and customer expectations. Both of these have already been covered in detail in the earlier slides, but here they serve as the foundation for meaningful epic creation. Epics are one of the key outputs during the early stages of a Scrum project. They are large, high-level user stories that represent broad functionality or feature descriptions. Since details are often not fully known at the beginning, these epics remain unrefined. Initially, they are listed in the prioritized product backlog. As the project progresses, and a particular epic is planned for an upcoming sprint, the Scrum team breaks it down into smaller, clearer, and actionable user stories. These smaller user stories are simple and specific, and can usually be completed within a single sprint. This breakdown helps the team manage the work better and ensures incremental progress toward delivering usable features. Epics are created at the beginning of the project, when most user stories are still at a high level. These epics capture broad descriptions of functionality or product requirements and are not yet detailed enough to be implemented directly. They sit in the prioritized product backlog and act as placeholders for big chunks of work. When an epic is selected for an upcoming sprint, it is broken down into smaller, more manageable user stories. These smaller stories are more detailed, specific, and practical. They are simple blocks of functionality that the team can complete within one sprint. This process ensures better planning and helps the team deliver consistent value during each sprint cycle. User stories or epics follow a specific format that helps clearly define the requirement, the user, and the value. This standard format is as a, I should be able to, so that, who. This identifies the type of user, like a customer, admin, or delivery person. What? This describes what the user wants to do. Why? This explains the benefit or value of that feature or functionality. This format ensures that every user story is tied to actual business value and is written from the end user's perspective. It also makes it easier for the team to understand the purpose of the task and focus on what matters most. Personas are fictional characters that represent real user types who may interact with the system. These are not real individuals, but are based on research and data about the target audience. The idea is to create a profile that reflects the needs, behaviors, goals, and challenges of a typical user. By developing personas, the team gains a clearer understanding of the end users, which helps in designing features that are relevant and valuable. The product owner uses these personas to better prioritize the product features in the backlog. Additionally, the process of creating personas brings the Scrum Core team and stakeholders together, encouraging a shared understanding of user expectations and driving stronger commitment to the project. Creating a persona means crafting a fictional character that represents a segment of your users. You start by giving the persona a name and, ideally, an image. This helps the team visualize them as a real person. The more specific the details, the better the team can relate to them. A complete persona includes attributes like age, gender, education level, work or living environment, personal interests, and their goals. These elements make the persona more realistic and useful for guiding product decisions. Often, we also include a quote that reflects the persona's needs or frustrations. This gives more context about their mindset and expectations. The next slide will show us some example personas, particularly for a travel website. This slide shows us two sample personas for a travel website. The first persona is Vanessa, a 39-year-old backpacker from San Francisco. She left a successful legal career to follow her passion for traveling. Her main need is flexibility in choosing budget-friendly accommodations. She gets annoyed by slow and cluttered websites and prefers clean, fast, and option-rich platforms. The second persona is Matt, a 25-year-old business executive who travels frequently. He doesn't like to waste time on travel websites and wants something quick and easy. His key requirement is convenience. He wants to book hotels and plan his itinerary while on the move. These examples show how understanding different user types helps the team build features that serve their unique needs. This slide shows how we create the prioritized product backlog, which is a critical component in Scrum. We start with key inputs like the Scrum core team, epics, personas, stakeholder input, project vision, and business requirements. These give us a base to start prioritizing work items. The tools used include techniques such as user story prioritization, risk assessment, and estimation of project value. These tools help the team figure out what should be built first based on value, risk, and user needs. The main output is the prioritized product backlog, which is a list of all the features and tasks sorted by importance. Also, we define done criteria, which helps the team know when a task is considered complete. In this slide, we talk about the prioritized product backlog, which is a key artifact in Scrum. The product backlog is essentially a list of requirements. These are the features or functionalities that, once developed, help fulfill the project vision. It is called prioritized because the items are ordered based on business value. The most valuable or urgent requirements are placed at the top, so they get developed first. The product owner is responsible for preparing the initial prioritized product backlog. Usually, the backlog contains epics and user stories, but it may also include other important items like bugs, functional requirements, or non-functional requirements such as performance or security needs. In this section, we highlight the critical inputs required to create the prioritized product backlog. There are three major inputs here: the Scrum core team, the epics, and the personas. We have already discussed all three topics earlier. The Scrum core team includes the product owner, Scrum master, and Scrum team. Epics are large, high-level user stories. Personas represent fictional user types that help us understand customer needs and behavior. These inputs ensure that the backlog is created in alignment with both business goals and user expectations. To create a useful and focused prioritized product backlog, we must carefully decide the order in which user stories should be developed. That's where user story prioritization methods come in. These methods help the product owner and team to evaluate which items will deliver the most business value and should be implemented first. Some common examples include MOS-CoW prioritization, which categorizes stories into must-have, should-have, could-have, and won't-have. Paired comparison, where stories are compared against each other to decide relative importance. 100-point method, where stakeholders are given 100 points to distribute across stories based on importance. These tools ensure that the Scrum team is always working on the most valuable features first. The prioritized product backlog is the main output of this step, and it's created by the product owner. This backlog is not just a list. It's a ranked list of business and project requirements, usually written in the form of epics or high-level user stories. The prioritization is done based on three main factors: business value, the item will deliver; the risk or uncertainty involved; and dependencies between different features or requirements. Because it considers both risk and value, it's often called the risk-adjusted product backlog. It also includes all approved changes from earlier steps that can now be organized and assigned priority for development. The done criteria are a predefined set of rules that apply to all user stories in a Scrum project. A clear definition of done is extremely important because it removes any ambiguity about what completion means, ensures the team meets all mandatory quality standards, and aligns expectations between the development team and the product owner. These done criteria are defined during the Create Prioritized Product Backlog process and used throughout the project. A user story is marked as done only when it is demonstrated to the product owner, and it is approved based on both the done criteria and the user story specific acceptance criteria. This ensures that the team is not just building features, but completing them to an agreed standard. The definition of done, DOD, is a very important concept in Scrum. It refers to a set of general rules called done criteria, which apply to all user stories in a sprint. Unlike acceptance criteria, which are specific to each individual user story, the done criteria are common across all user stories. To mark a user story as complete or done, it must satisfy all the acceptance criteria defined for that story, and it must also fulfill all the done criteria that apply generally across the sprint. The Scrum team typically uses a checklist of done criteria to make sure that nothing is missed and that the output meets the overall quality and completeness expectations. This checklist helps in maintaining consistency, ensuring that all team members follow the same quality standards. Let's now look at some examples of done criteria. These help the team understand what must be completed before a user story is considered truly done. 1. Reviewed by other team members. Peer review is essential. It ensures the work is checked for errors and aligns with team standards. 2. Completed unit testing of the user story. The functionality should be verified at the code level, and all unit tests must pass. 3. Completion of quality assurance tests. QA must test and validate the user story to ensure it works as expected across scenarios. 4th, completion of all documentation related to the user story. All relevant documentation, like user manuals, guides, or internal technical notes, should be complete. 5. All issues are fixed. Any bugs, errors, or concerns raised during development or testing must be resolved. 6. Successful demonstration to stakeholders and/or business representatives. Finally, the feature should be demonstrated and accepted by the product owner or stakeholders. These done criteria ensure that we don't just finish coding, but deliver a complete, tested, and accepted piece of value. Now let's discuss an example persona for our project. David. David is 28 years old and works in retail. Due to his long working hours, he doesn't get much time to physically visit stores for grocery shopping. He prefers online grocery shopping because it saves him time. David usually places the same order every time, so he prefers a system that allows quick repeat orders, without the need to re-enter his address or payment information. His biggest priority is speed and convenience during the ordering process. By understanding David's needs, we can prioritize features like one-click reordering, saved address and payment details, fast checkout and delivery options. This persona helps us tailor the product backlog to solve real user problems and deliver value quickly. Let's now look at another persona for the project. Sue. Sue is 25 years old and works as a logistics executive at VM Foods. Her role involves managing timely deliveries of customer grocery orders. As the online platform is expected to receive a large volume of orders, Sue needs a centralized system to handle everything efficiently. She dislikes switching between multiple tools or software because that increases the chance of missing critical information. Instead, she wants a single dashboard where she can view all orders and their real-time status at a glance. To address Sue's needs, we should prioritize an order management dashboard, real-time order status tracking, centralized access to all delivery data. By keeping Sue in mind, we make the back-end operations smoother, which indirectly improves the overall customer experience. On this slide, we are presented with a practical activity related to the creation of personas for a product backlog. Personas are fictional, generalized representations of the real users that help us understand user needs, expectations, and behavior patterns. In this exercise, we are focusing on a case study from VM Foods. Based on the images shown, we've developed two distinct personas. Persona 1 is Naomi Tanaka, a busy marketing manager who is health-conscious and values quick, nutritious meal options. Her needs include transparency in ingredients, fast delivery, and personalized meal planning options to suit her hectic schedule. Persona 2 is Marcus Johnson, a tech entrepreneur with a strong interest in fitness. He wants high-protein meals that match his dietary goals and integrates with his fitness tracking tools. He prefers customizable meal options and efficient service. These personas serve as critical inputs for the product owner while creating the prioritized product backlog. By understanding user expectations more clearly, we can prioritize the most valuable features and functionalities early in the development cycle. In this part of the case study, we focus on the creation of initial product backlog epics based on user needs. An epic is a high-level requirement or a large body of work that can later be broken down into multiple smaller user stories. It serves as a placeholder for customer-centric functionality and helps the team plan high-value features from the start. We are working with a sample user, David, and based on his typical goals as an online customer, we have derived three key epics. Epic 1. As a user. David, I should be able to log into my account so that I could check my past history. This epic focuses on account access and past activity visibility. It reflects the need for a user to view order history, preferences, or saved items, critical for repeat purchases and personalization. Epic 2. As a user, David, I should be able to make purchases online so that I could make purchases without going to the store. This addresses a fundamental e-commerce functionality, online purchase capability. It implies back-end integration with payments, product availability, and order processing systems. Epic 3. As a user, David, I should be able to easily browse for products and have a shopping cart feature to select items to purchase, so that I do not have to search for products repeatedly. This epic ensures a smooth user experience through intuitive product navigation and a persistent cart system. It emphasizes convenience and efficiency in the shopping journey. These epics provide a strategic direction for backlog development and are essential building blocks of the product. Let's now look at some additional epics that could be created for the VM Foods platform as part of the initial product backlog. The first additional epic is real-time delivery tracking. This feature is designed to allow users to track their food delivery status live, so they know exactly where their order is and when it's expected to arrive. This increases user confidence and reduces the need for support queries about delivery status. It also reflects a growing customer expectation in today's on-demand economy, where real-time visibility is considered a basic requirement. The second epic is Save Favorites for quick reordering. With this functionality, users can mark dishes or restaurants as favorites and revisit them later to place a quick order. This improves customer convenience, especially for frequent users. In this case study, we are continuing to build an initial product backlog by identifying relevant epics, which are large user requirements that will later be broken into smaller, manageable user stories. The first epic is, as a user, David, I should be able to save items in the shopping cart Save feature so that the items are saved for future visit. This epic targets the need for users to store their selections even if they are not ready to purchase. It improves user convenience, especially in cases where the user wants to revisit the site later and pick up where they left off. It also contributes to increased conversion rates by encouraging users to come back and complete purchases. The second epic is, as a user, Sue, I should be able to see how many orders are under process so that I could schedule the order for delivery. This functionality gives transparency to users regarding current order volume. It helps them make informed decisions about when to place their orders and manage expectations, especially during peak hours. Next is, as a user, David, I should be able to see the top-selling products on the homepage so that I do not have to spend time on searching for those products. This epic addresses usability. By prominently displaying top-selling or trending items, users are able to make quicker decisions, and the company can also promote popular products more effectively. Finally, as a user, Sue, I should be able to sort orders by delivery date so that I could arrange delivery accordingly. This epic is particularly useful for customers managing multiple deliveries or scheduling repeat orders. Sorting by delivery date ensures better planning and control. All these epics focus on enhancing the user experience, increasing efficiency, and helping the business align more closely with customer expectations. These epics can be later broken down into detailed user stories with acceptance criteria. In this part of the case study, we are continuing to enrich the initial product backlog by adding 2 more epics that are directly aligned with improving the user experience and operational efficiency. The first epic is, as a user, David, I should be able to see a separate page for each category so that it is easier to search for products. This epic addresses a key aspect of user navigation. By creating dedicated pages for each product category, such as groceries, beverages, snacks, etc., users will be able to find products more efficiently. This not only reduces the time spent browsing, but also leads to a better overall shopping experience. For businesses, this kind of intuitive navigation can result in increased user engagement and higher conversion rates. The second epic is, as a user, Sue, I should be able to find orders which are late for delivery so that I could prioritize their delivery. This epic is particularly useful from an operational and logistics perspective. It introduces a way for users, especially delivery managers or admin users, to track delayed deliveries and prioritize them. Implementing this feature could significantly improve customer satisfaction by ensuring delayed deliveries are addressed quickly and effectively. Both of these epics are strategic additions to the product backlog. One focuses on front-end usability, and the other on back-end operational visibility, showcasing how Scrum helps identify and deliver value across multiple user roles. In this case study question, we are focusing on a common challenge faced during the creation of the product backlog. What should a Scrum Master do if team members disagree with the product owner regarding priorities? This is an important question because the Scrum framework is built on collaboration transparency, and clearly defined roles. The product owner has the authority and responsibility for prioritizing the product backlog. However, that doesn't mean the development team's insights aren't valuable. As a Scrum Master, your role here is to act as a facilitator and coach. You should encourage a healthy discussion between the product owner and the team. Guide them to focus on business value, technical dependencies, and risk mitigation while discussing priorities. If the disagreement persists, you must ensure that all voices are heard and then help the team reach consensus, or at least alignment. But ultimately, the product owner's decision on prioritization should be respected, unless it's clearly misaligned with stakeholder or product goals. This scenario highlights how Scrum Masters must balance servant leadership with conflict resolution skills. In this case, study question, we are dealing with a very practical challenge. What should a Scrum Master do if a product backlog item, PBI, is not well defined? A poorly defined backlog item can create confusion during sprint planning, result in inaccurate estimations, and eventually impact the quality of deliverables. As a Scrum Master, your role is to ensure that the Scrum process is being followed correctly. Not to define the items yourself, but to facilitate the process so that they are well understood. You should first encourage the product owner to refine the PBI, possibly with inputs from the Scrum team. This could involve conducting a backlog refinement session where the team collaborates to break down large or vague items, clarify acceptance criteria, and ensure the item is ready for future sprints. If such issues are recurring, guide the product owner on techniques like invest criteria, making sure each item is independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small, and testable. The goal is to promote transparency, alignment, and shared understanding within the team before work begins. In this section, we are looking at a very crucial activity in Scrum: conducting release planning. This process happens during the initiate phase and lays the foundation for all upcoming sprints and product deliveries. Let's first understand the inputs. We begin with key members such as the Scrum core team, stakeholders, and the program-level roles like the product owner, program Scrum Master, and chief product owner. These individuals bring in the project vision statement, the current prioritized product backlog, and other important documents like the business requirements, holiday calendar, and definition of done, DOD. Now, coming to the tools. We use structured release planning sessions where the team collectively decides what can be released and when. This is supported by release prioritization methods, which help us decide which features bring the most value and should be prioritized. Finally, the outputs. The main deliverables include the release planning schedule, which defines the timeline, the length of the sprint for planning iterations, a list of target customers for the release, and a refined prioritized product backlog, which reflects the latest priorities after team discussions. Release planning ensures that the team aligns business goals with technical deliverables, setting the right direction from the start. In this part of the Scrum framework, we are focusing on the conduct release planning process, which falls under the initiate phase. The objective here is to develop a structured and realistic release planning schedule. The Scrum core team takes the lead in preparing this schedule, ensuring that product increments are delivered to the stakeholders at planned and meaningful intervals. The schedule clearly states what deliverables will be released, when they will be delivered, and to whom, typically the customer or end user. To create a reliable and useful release plan, the team takes into consideration a variety of inputs. These include stakeholder feedback and expectations, the overall project vision statement, the prioritized product backlog that lists all product requirements, detailed business requirements, and the holiday calendar, which helps avoid unrealistic planning due to non-working days. Another important aspect decided during release planning is the length of each sprint. While every sprint is expected to produce a potentially shippable product increment, the actual decision of when this increment is delivered to the customer depends on the release planning schedule. This process helps align all team efforts with business goals and ensures that the project is both value-driven and time-efficient. In this slide, we will briefly touch upon the critical inputs that drive the conduct release planning process. Most of these inputs have already been discussed in earlier sessions, so we will focus on reinforcing their significance in the context of release planning. First, the Scrum Core team plays a pivotal role. This team is responsible for collecting and analyzing all required information and then making key decisions regarding the release schedule. Next, the involvement of stakeholders is crucial. They provide real-world insights, expectations, and constraints which guide the release plan. Without their feedback, the schedule might not align with actual market needs. Then we have the project vision statement. This document offers a clear direction and overall goal for the project. It helps the team align the release plan with the broader objectives of the product. Another essential input is the prioritized product backlog. This list outlines the features and requirements in order of business value or priority, and serves as the primary reference for deciding what gets released and when. Finally, the done criteria, which defines what done means for a user story or deliverable, is critical to ensure that only completed quality work is considered for release. Together, these inputs provide a strong foundation for an effective and value-driven release planning process. In this part, we are focusing on a key tool used during the release planning process, the release planning session. This session is where the Scrum team collaboratively works to develop a release plan, which outlines when specific sets of usable features or functionalities will be delivered to the customer. The main goal of the release planning meeting is to provide the Scrum team with a high-level view of the product's release and delivery timeline. This helps align the team with the product owner's priorities and the broader expectations of key stakeholders, particularly the project sponsor. Now, it's important to note that organizations may approach releases in different ways. Some follow a continuous deployment model, where releases happen as soon as a usable functionality is completed. Others adopt a phased deployment strategy, where releases are planned at fixed intervals. Regardless of the method, the session ensures transparency, shared understanding, and better coordination for delivering real value to the customer. Let's now move on to another essential tool used during the release planning process: release prioritization methods. These methods play a crucial role in the development of the release plan, as they help determine the order in which features or deliverables will be released. What's important to understand here is that these prioritization methods are often industry-specific and can vary based on the organization's nature, goals, and customer needs. Typically, these methods are selected and defined by the organization's senior management, and they are aligned with the business's strategic objectives. Factors such as customer value, market demands, technical risk, and ROI are usually considered while prioritizing. By using these methods, the team ensures that the most valuable features are delivered to the customer at the right time, maximizing business value and customer satisfaction. In this segment, we are discussing the release planning schedule, which is the key output of the release planning process. A release planning schedule clearly outlines which deliverables are to be released to the customer and when, including specific dates and intervals. It provides clarity to all stakeholders on the delivery timeline of usable functionality. It's important to understand that not every sprint ends with a release. Sometimes multiple sprints may be grouped together before a release is planned. This depends on whether the deliverable provides sufficient business value to justify deployment. Organizations may approach this planning in two different ways. Some follow a functionality-driven approach, where a release is scheduled only when a specific set of features is ready. Others may follow a date-driven approach, where releases happen on predefined calendar dates, regardless of the scope of work completed. Either way, the release planning schedule ensures strategic alignment between the development team, the product owner, and business stakeholders. In this section, we are focusing on one of the key outputs of release planning: determining the length of sprint. The sprint length refers to the fixed time duration within which the Scrum team commits to delivering a potentially shippable product increment. This decision is made collaboratively by the product owner and the Scrum team. Once the sprint length is decided, it usually remains consistent throughout the project to maintain rhythm and predictability. However, in the initial stages of the project, teams may experiment with different durations, ranging from 1 to 6 weeks, to determine what works best for the team dynamics and delivery speed. In the later stages of the project, any change in sprint length is uncommon, but if it happens, it's typically to reduce the duration, which often indicates that the team has become more efficient or that the project environment has improved. Overall, consistency in sprint length is key to achieving a steady delivery cadence and enabling accurate planning and forecasting. In this segment, we explore how the expected degree of change in project requirements influences the length of sprint during release planning. If the project requirements are relatively stable, meaning that the team does not expect frequent or major changes, then a longer sprint duration, typically 4 to 6 weeks, can be more practical and efficient. It allows the team to work with greater focus and reduced administrative overhead between sprint cycles. However, when the project is highly dynamic and requirements are either evolving or unclear, or when frequent changes are expected from stakeholders, it is better to reduce the sprint length to 1 to 3 weeks. This enables the team to remain more flexible and respond quickly to change through shorter feedback loops. As a best practice, Scrum recommends time-boxing sprints to 4 weeks or less for most projects. This ensures adaptability, quick value delivery, and timely feedback. Only in cases where the environment is highly predictable and requirements are unlikely to change can sprints be extended to up to 6 weeks. This slide shows the relationship between the length of the sprint and the level of expected change in a project environment. The graph here clearly depicts an inverse relationship. On the x-axis, we see the sprint length in weeks, ranging from 1 to 6. On the y-axis, we have the expected change, starting from high at the top and going down to low. As the graph indicates, when the expected change is high, meaning the requirements are still evolving or the environment is uncertain, shorter sprints, around 1 to 3 weeks, are preferred. This helps in adapting quickly to new information and feedback. Conversely, when expected change is low and the project requirements are relatively stable, we can afford longer sprints, typically around 4 to 6 weeks. In such cases, the team can work without frequent interruptions or replanning. This visual emphasizes the need to adapt sprint duration based on how frequently you expect priorities or scope to shift. It helps ensure agility while maintaining delivery focus. In this section, we focus on additional factors that influence the length of sprint beyond just expected changes in requirements. First, we consider the actual time needed to get work done. If the project or organizational processes require a certain amount of time to complete tasks, then sprint length must align with those operational realities. For example, regulatory reviews or long testing cycles may necessitate a slightly longer sprint duration. Second, we look at planned release dates. The release timeline for the overall product or service has a direct influence on sprint length. If releases are fixed and aligned with marketing campaigns or fiscal deadlines, then sprints may need to be adjusted to ensure that deliverables are ready in time. Finally, there may be other custom factors identified by the product owner or Scrum Master. These could include stakeholder preferences, external dependencies, or organizational policies that require specific planning for sprint durations. All of these considerations must be balanced to decide a sprint length that supports both agility and practicality. This is a reflective question aimed at understanding how release planning is handled in your own organization if you are using Scrum. In Scrum, releases can be functionality-driven or schedule-driven. If your release is functionality-driven, that means new versions are released when a certain set of features or user stories have been completed and meet the done criteria. On the other hand, if your release is schedule-driven, the release occurs on a fixed date, regardless of how much functionality is completed. In such cases, whatever is done by the deadline gets released. This question is meant to help you identify which approach your team currently follows, and whether that strategy aligns with your business goals, stakeholder expectations, and customer needs.